Good morning, everyone. Today we will be wrapping this pendant in a crisscross design like this labradorite that I've recently done. Um, so grab your coffee, grab your tools, and let's get started. So in this tutorial, we're going to be wrapping a slightly smaller stone. This is a sunstone, and we will be wrapping it in silver parawire. These are square silver 21 gauge and square half round 21 gauge. For my stone, I've cut out about 6.5 inches. The way you'd measure out the amount you need for your stone is, this is how I do it. I have markings on my mat like about an inch apart, and I would just roll my stone like from tip, just roll it around, and then you have just over 2 inches, and double that. So say 2.25, double it to 4.5, and add about a couple of inches for the bail. And if you want to give yourself something extra for design, swirls, and stuff, you can add in that extra bit. So to get started, I have 4 lengths of square wire cut out to about 6.5 inches, and about 3.5 inches of the half round wire. I've straightened out my wires. One easy way to do this is to just hold one edge with your flat nose or needle nose pliers. Take your nylon jaw pliers and then just run it over the wire smoothly. It's a square wire, so you do it in two directions. Once this way and once this way. Doesn't have to be super straight, but enough that it's straight enough you can wrap them and stack them together. Parawire is also soft. You can warm them by just running it through your fingers a couple of times, and that kind of warms it before you start using it. So let's get started. You're going to stack the wires. It's going to be stacked one on top of the other, lying flat. Roughly in the center, you're going to take your half round wire with the flat side. Now if you look carefully, this side catches the light a little differently than the other side. So the rounded side will always kind of look slimmer, catch the light only at an angle, whereas the flat side you'll feel is thicker. It catches the light differently. You can also feel it. The flat side has to be flat against your little bundle of wires. Give yourself about a half a centimeter, or say a centimeter or half an inch of a tail. Hold the other end and come across. So your flat side again is flat against your bundle of wires. You have this little tail to hold on to, and up and around. Smooth it as you go. Firm but not so tight that your bundle moves one on top of the other. So up and around again. You can take your flat nose or needle nose pliers and kind of squish them together so they're lying right next to each other, and gently tap them to flatten them down. What you're trying to do is avoid bubbles. It has to be nice and flat because that's what's going to secure our wrap, keep them together, not have the wires flopping around. Again, smooth it up and around, and if it's too far off, squish it up and around, smooth it. The amount of wraps we need is based on how wide your stone is. So for this one, we needed about probably 15 wraps on the base there. You need enough wraps, so just where the stone starts to flare is where you would stop. So where it starts to thicken out and flare out is where that's the amount that you need. So that's obviously less for the stone we are working on today than it is for the other one. We need about, I would say, roughly 8 or 9 wraps. We just want enough on that base over there. Okay. So I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 7, 8. I think 8 or 9 should be enough. Gently tap. You don't want to mar the wires. and you end both wires on the same side. To terminate them, you could use, I'm using shears because this one is just like a smaller wrap, a smaller stone. I wanted to get in better. I do have other cutters too. Anyway, here's, you cut them at an angle, at a 45-degree angle, roughly halfway in the middle of the bundle. See that? Same thing here, lift it up slightly so you're kind of in the middle of the bundle. Careful you don't snip off the wrong wires. Always hold the tip of this wire and the flush side to the side you're keeping. So at a 45-degree angle, and just gently put that down. So your wire, if you can see, has ended. Let me get that in focus a little better. It has ended on the same side. Your other side is your outside. We have a tiny little gap, so we're going to just squish those wires a little bit together, and there you have it. Now we're going to start molding it around our stone. So you see how much of the wraps are? It's just where the stone starts to fatten up on the bottom is the amount of wraps that you need. All right. Now we're going to start molding this around the stone. With the cut edge next to the stone, you're just going to, hang on, let's start doing this with our fingers so you don't have the wires slipping all over the place. You get a rough U shape. Center that wire. Right now it'll still move around a bit, and that's okay. You want to get it centered. And let me just double check if this angle is right. Okay. So around your stone, hold your stone down firmly with one finger and mold. I'm going to come around at a different angle too. Hang on, so you can see this. There. Let's zoom that in a bit, if I can do that. And right there. So you're kind of trying to get the shape of the wire around the stones. Roughly is good. So we have that. Take the stone aside. Just make sure your bundle still is sitting. Your bundle is still sitting next to each other. And before we go any further, we're going to do these little twists on the wire to give it a little bit of shine and design. So carefully take that first wire right on the top. I'm using a pin vise. You can use your pliers and rotate them. That works too. So for your pin vise, you just open up and put in one tip. This is difficult to do with the camera on you. Okay, so you put that in, tighten it really nice and tight, and take your pliers. You're holding the wires right here so you don't pull them out. Right where that bundle ends, just the tip, hold it nice and firm, and then you start to twist the wire. And you'll see as you twist, you get this nice little diamond cut effect, and that catches and reflects the light just a little bit better. It gives you that nice little design there. Okay, so we're going to do the first two wires, and carefully again, flare out the wires a bit. Take that second wire, put it in. Make sure you tighten it really nice and tight. You don't want it to pull out any of the wires. Again, right where your little bundle is attached, with the tip, hold it nice and firmly, and then twist this again. You can either keep it the same number of twists, different number of twists, tighter, looser, just the way you want it to be, and you'll see it'll catch the light. Now we're going to do the same thing to the two top wires on this side. Okay, I'm going to just zoom out a bit of this. There you go. So flare it out. Put this right in there. Tight. Hold that bundle right there. Don't worry if your wires see look to have moved around a little bit. We are going to adjust them. That bundle is still not attached on the other side. We'll move it so it's centered. Again, the second wire. Tight. Now this is completely optional. You don't have to do this if you don't want to. You can just skip this step and continue with the design. But I like twisting wires. It just gives it that, especially with the square wires, it just gives it this beautiful sparkle. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to give this stone of ours a little seat. So this is the back of the labradorite pendant that we did. Let me just double check if it's on focus. So there you go. So that's the back of the labradorite. We need something to give that stone a little bit of a seat so it's not flopping around. So the absolute last wire, the fourth wire in the back, you just curve those inwards a little bit. And we're gonna do it like this, just so I can show you how to put those little dents in the back so that it'll hold it. You could leave it this way and have the stone coming out. That's fine too. But I'm just going to show you how I did that. It also helps tighten up the stone a little bit. So just after you curl it, have the tip of your pliers in and put a little bend. Make sure you're doing it on the right wire. It has to be the wire that's the absolute back wire. Again, on this side, you hold it with your pliers and bend it inwards. And that gives it this nice little bend. And we can adjust and mold it just the way you want to. Or like I said, you could leave it straight. The reason I put it in there is because I wanted to tighten up the stone, because when I first wrapped it, I left it a little looser than I needed to. So what this is going to do now is give your stone something to sit on right there. So as you're working around with it, it's not going to fall out the back. You just curve the top just a wee bit, just like that. And you give yourself about, I would say, a quarter of an inch, just a little bit of space on the top. You can remove your stone for a moment while we just kind of adjust and manipulate these wires. Make sure they're still where we need them to be. Same thing here, just know your front wires, the order that they're in. You don't want to curve them around. So now we're going to separate out our two twisted wires. Just lift them up slightly so they're sitting aside. Now you have your top wires. We're first going to